Oh, and we're live, the numbers are ticking. We just have to wait for the people. As they say, if you stream it, people will eventually turn up. Here we are. Good morning. Yep, and people do turn up. Excellent. Morning, good morning to you all. Who have we got? We've got P, Sheen DB, Yumika, Ben, Henk, and Dave. Good morning to you all. Oh, hang on, we've got some more. Morning, good morning. Good morning from a Eurostar train. Like I say, we actually haven't talked about the situation about Eurostar before, and I think that's something that should probably need to be addressed as well at some point. We just haven't got around to it at the moment. Like I say, sometimes there seems to be only so much stuff sometimes you can cover in a week. But yes, good morning. So while we're all still here, good morning and welcome to the wonderful wilds of South Yorkshire, in God's own county, as we often like to call it. So while we're all still filtering in, let's, as we once used to, we often used to turn to America, turn to across the pond, and look at what was going on there before we delved into our own madness that was Brexit. So, interestingly, across the pond, someone from the West Coast has joined us. Good morning to you. And I think, interestingly enough, as I said before, well, I don't know if many of you might be new, so you might not know who we're talking about. There's a very interesting politician that got elected in the last election cycle called Marjorie Taylor Greene, or MGT for short. And old Marge, well, she's an absolute nutcase. There's no easier way to say it. Oh, hang on, and we've got some mini. Thank you for the support. Good morning. Oh, and as long as there's something that distracts us from the real problems, your PM is happy. Enjoy the coffee. Yep. Yep. But don't worry, we'll start talking about those problems later. It's just a good warm up. So part of the and she's a character, as we'd say in the UK. She's a right character, and not in a good way. So she's full on, like she supported QAnon when she was running. She was heavily involved in like the Capitol riots that happened. She was leading people around who were involved in the riots, giving them tours of the Capitol beforehand. That sums her up in every nice word. And of course, she's a mega Trumpist. And I've often thought, how is Trump, his legacy going to affect US politics and indeed the Republican Party? Because obviously recently he had his very first post presidential interview, and he mooted that he might run in 2024. I'm sure that's going to upset a lot of Republican politicians who have their eyes on the presidency in that year as well. But interestingly enough, as we have in the UK, and we've experienced very recently, the phenomenons of parties within parties, such as the ERG, the Northern Research Group, the Coronavirus Recovery Group. These are sort of new phenomenon. These are sort of new phenomenon. I can't even say it. These are sort of new trends, since we can't say it. These are new trends in our politics. But in the US, what's known as caucusing isn't new. It's been around for, well, quite a while. And the new caucus that Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to start was, first of all, I believe it was called the Anglo-Saxon caucus, which, if you know anything about racist dog whistles, should set off all your alarm bells immediately. It was then changed to like the Make America Great Again caucus, and I think it went through a couple of iterations. However, interestingly enough, the Republicans actually stood up and went, hold on a second, we're not going to allow you to do that. So now this great Trump caucus that she was meant to be building, all of a sudden just went pop out of nowhere, just went completely. So needless to say, this is a interesting phenomenon that we've got the Republicans, for probably the first time since Trump got elected, even before then, are now actively trying to... Oh. We've got a cow following us. Oh no, I think he just wanted to cross paths there. I thought I was going to get chased by a cow then. That would make for a good live stream, me being chased by a cow. So yeah, it makes a good example of something that could potentially happen, that the Republicans almost sort of grew a backbone and stood up not directly to Trump, but stopped a faction that was directly related to him. So in terms of politics in the US, that could be something very interesting to watch. That could be something very, very interesting to watch in the future. I see we've got a couple more people in now. Good morning to you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you're enjoying the wonderful start to your somewhat strange bank holiday weekend, although it's not the first time we've had a bank holiday weekend in lockdown. So, what's been happening this week in the UK? Well, last week, as you may remember, we talked somewhat briefly about the Greensill scandal. And even last week, we did a video commenting on the fact of, look, this is going to be a ongoing. We don't know how it could turn out. We don't know what evidence is going to come out of this. But needless to say, the one thing that a lot of people were saying, and I think has been proven right over time, was that this was just going to be the tip of the iceberg. Oh, congratulations on 10,000. Looking forward to the special Jeff episode. So let me address this now very quickly before we jump on. I'll probably have to talk about it later as well for the rest of the people who come in. We will be still going ahead with the Jeffisode, as we as we might call it. I'm still workshopping a name for it, and at the moment I am essentially getting together. If you're on my Patreon, you've seen recently I've posted pictures of some of the stuff that I've received recently. So at the moment we are just waiting for stuff to turn up at the moment. So hopefully this week the rest of the stuff should turn up, and we will be able to partake in we're being accosted by a pony. Do you want my friend? There you go. just having a good sniff. But interestingly enough, this was kind of strange, because as I was ordering the stuff, Amazon sent me you get an email of your confirmation, and one of the items was coming from Europe and was going to be delayed by up to 3 months. I kid you not, 3 months. So luckily that's been shortened. So hopefully, if that item does turn up this week, hopefully, fingers crossed, in the next 2 weeks, bar any technical issues, we should be able to kickstart our Jeffisode very soon. And for those of you wanting some foal pony action, there you go. Oh, look at him. Like I say, and I think he's very recent. I think he's only been born in the past 2 or 3 weeks or so. So he's very new. But there you go. There's some of our pony action today. Because I know that's what you all really come here for. So where were we? Yes, our current but very obvious corruption scandals. So, as we said, Greensill was probably only going to be the very, very tip of what many commentators had been saying about the upcoming, I often remind people about the hashtag Tory scandals yet to come. And it looks like they were proven right massively, that there are lots of, indeed, Tory scandals yet to come. We've had the Greensill scandal, there's been the Robert Jerrick scandal, there's now been Matt Hancock's been implicated in one. Boris has been implicated in one with James Dyson. There's still the Jennifer Accruy, I think that's how you say it, the Jennifer Accruy scandal that's still going on. So already, these are quite significant number of scandals that are going on. And I was really, really disheartened this week, because I've often said, if people paid attention, even in the slightest bit, to politics, we would not be in this mess. Like, we would never, ever be in this mess. There'd be, we would have riots in the streets. There would be mass protests. And I've often lamented the fact that I wish the British public were as turned on to the fact of politics as they are in France. Because in France, they are incredibly active in politics and knowing not only what is going on in their their national politics, but even their local politics as well. And, it would be hard, very hard, if I went out in Barnsley and I tried to find someone who had been to, like, a council meeting, let's say within the past 3 years, it would be very, very hard to find. I think it might be even hard to find someone, well, it would be incredibly easy to find people, and lots of people, who had never, ever been to, like, a local council meeting in Barnsley. And you saw, obviously, this week, the whole UEFA Super Football League be announced. And there was too much fanfare, and all these big clubs were going to join it, and this was going to be a way to help, promote fans, and there was going to be all this fantastic stuff that was going to come with it. And of course, there was a massive, massive public outcry. We saw some really passionate speeches by some famous football commentators. Don't ask me, I'm not going to say their names because, like I say, I don't follow football. It's not my thing. So we saw these really passionate things. There were even spontaneous, I think that's how you say it, spontaneous, that's it, spontaneous protests outside some of these clubs. There were even virtual meetings by the fans as to what they could do to help stop their club from doing this, to a point where even the Prime Minister decided to get involved and have a meeting with these clubs. And then literally, I think it was almost, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was pretty much almost within 24 hours, the entire idea of a super club got completely turned around. Oh, ponies, soon, my friend, very soon. Neon, that's, I've got to give my screen a good clean. Yeah, Neon D. Smith, thank you very much for the support there. Don't worry, we're getting to some more ponies soon. So, and it was kind of shocking that this entire, stuff happened literally within 24 hours. Literally within 24 hours. It was unbelievable. And don't get me wrong, we have seen the British public react to politics, and we've seen, the Conservatives pull U-turns on stuff before. But for 24 hours, I don't think I've seen that quick a turnaround. I don't think I've ever seen that quick a turnaround before. And that's generally unbelievable. But that just goes to show you the amount of people and probably pressure that the public put on their members of parliament, the Prime Minister, and the clubs. And as I've said multiple times before, even though we are currently living in a very, very Conservative dominated time where they have about an 84-seat majority, it is still possible to put pressure on these people. I've said before, write to your MPs, look for petitions. If there isn't one, start one in your area. It is very, very possible to get people engaged with this type of stuff. And like I say, hopefully, fingers crossed, a lot of people, especially us on the left, because I've really got to look into, this is something that I really want to look into, as to how a lot of the organization around that campaign happened so quickly and so fast. And particularly from my perspective as someone who is in marketing and works in marketing, I'm going to find that quite interesting. It might be a lot of stats and numbers and boring statistics, but it might be quite fun to have a look at. But I might I might jazz it up, shall we say, if we ever did it as a video. But nevertheless, it'd be something quite interesting, I think, to have a look at. And indeed, I would not be surprised if someone out there ends up writing a book about the European Super Football League and how it very quickly got turned around and destroyed. But that was just one part of the story, because I'm sure the irony on a lot of people was not lost on the fact that Boris Johnson was asking the British teams that had decided they were going to split away and form this league that they should not be leaving such well-known and organized European institutions for essentially promises of greater wealth and success elsewhere. Remind you of anything, people? Like I say, it's put it this way, I don't think the irony was lost on a lot of people either, that you had Boris Johnson on saying how these guys should be left and fitted into this. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Oh, David here. Suspect that the corruption issues will not bite until the austerity hits. Major problems were in the aftermath of the 92 downturn. True, but if you think about it, and a lot of people have said this as well recently, that those scandals back then were entirely different as today. I mean, you had a lot of very sort of sexually charged scandals back then, and that seemed to be the issue that dominated the day of, you know, politicians found in bed not with their wives. That seemed to be the issue that dominated today. But instead we have some really, really bad, generally quite bad issues of corruption, of money for favors and cash for access. And that's something that we on the left can take some really, really big advantage of, because this can actually be potentially a really big vote winner. And I mean that in general seriousness, because if you, there we go, say for example, Labour to run at the next general election campaign a serious campaign, and I mean a generally serious campaign about corruption in politics, and actually had good rules and laws that they were going to pass into office, that could be a massive vote winner for Labour. It really, really could. Honestly, it really, really could. And I do really 100% believe that. It's just whether Starmer's going to pay attention to it or not. And I think that this is, again, something that, again, we as the Labour Party and, you know, members of the Labour Party need to push for. And like I say, You know, a lot of people said that it was fantasy and that the local Labour parties would never, ever be able to get more than 80 motions for proportional representation to be put on the Labour manifesto. We're at 212. 212 local Labour parties now support that initiative. So I think if we were serious about this, then what we need to do is we need to start lobbying our local Labour parties to push for some serious anti-corruption laws with some serious teeth. And that could be a serious vote winner for Labour at the next general elections. I really do think that. Even now, if Starmer actually started talking about the problem of money in politics and started to actually associate all these scandals that have gone on, and trust me, I guarantee you this week more scandals will come out. I can almost guarantee you next week we will be talking about yet another Conservative scandal, because as people have said, this is but the tip of the iceberg. We will be seeing more scandals come out. And if Starmer really wants to hurt Boris Johnson, he needs to link all this Tory corruption, all this Tory sleaze to the Conservatives and to Boris. And calling Boris Johnson the king of sleaze would be an absolutely fantastic campaign to run against him and start now. So I think, again, this would be a very good campaign to do it. Oh, hang on, we've had more. Oh, thank you, Gaffme. Yeah, Brexit fans cheer when they get relegated. Oh, thank you again for that support from Michael Mayo. Thank you very much. Thank you both for the support there. Like I say, your support on this channel is very, very much appreciated. So we'll go over the Jefferthorn and the plans for that in a bit. But I just want to finish my thoughts on this because I think it's very, very important. So we need those ideas, and we need to think. And I'm going to look this week especially and look for experts, what they have said we could do and what laws we could bring in to tackle this corruption. Because it would be fantastic if we could push for these laws and motions. It would be fantastic, because then, if, for example, Labour really when we when we really have these laws, when we have these laws ready to go, we can, and what Labour should do, is a opposition day motion to push for these laws. That's what they should then do. And then what they're going to do happens is either two things. If these laws pass, excellent, great. These will ultimately end up hurting the Tory party massively. We may even start to see investigations into some of these scandals and find out what really happened. And this in turn may uncover yet more scandals that have been going on as well. In fact, it probably ultimately will. And so that's if they pass. But what you say if the Tories vote them down? Because we saw last week, we saw them vote heavily down for an open parliamentary investigation into these some of these scandals recently, and that will hurt them in the long run as well. If they vote against these laws and Labour can get public backing, and can organise letter writing campaigns or organise like a template to send to people who live in conservative MP areas, saying I want you to vote for these support Labour's anti-corruption laws. This will force a lot of these MPs into position to support these stuff, because then let's say they vote against it. What you can then do, and what I would be doing, is I would be getting on a live stream. I would tell the British public, this is what we proposed. This is why we proposed them. This is how it would affect politics. It would clean up politics in this and this way, explaining it very clearly and simply what these policies were intended to do. And then I would say that the Conservatives voted them down. And here are all the MPs and the constituents that they are in who voted against it. And I would just put all those MPs on blast, and I would organise campaigns in those areas for, again, to get people to write and contact their MP to find out, okay, why did you vote against these? And then what I would do is every single chance and opportunity that Labour get to bring this bill up again for a vote, do it. Every single time. Just do it again and again and again in that same pattern. Go, this is what we're doing. This is what we did. These people voted against it. Why are these people so against trying to uncorrupt our politics? That is generally what I would do. So we've got some pony action for you there. Oh, thank you very much for that support there from, I've got to get my screen cleaned at some point. Ian, I think it's Ian. Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. Like I say, that's one of the foals. I don't know if you can see the other foal. He's behind the black horse there, the black pony there. You might just be able to see him over the back of his head there. I don't know if you can see him. And the third one is, don't know if you can see him, is under the legs there. If you can see him moving about there. Oh, he's standing up there. Oh, he's on the move. There you are, bringing you some pony action. So, we'll talk about Jeff Taylor again. I've already mentioned it once, but we'll bring it up again for those of you who missed it. So, as you know, we have hit 10,000 subscribers, and thank you so much to all the people who've subscribed, hit the like button and shared my videos. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else who supports my channel, either through Patreon or has bought me a coffee, some over these years since we started, because it's been absolutely fantastic. I've been absolutely blown away by your support. It has generally been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. Means so much to me, so much. I'm generally, like I say, blown away by it. So that's me being, thank you so much. just thank you. I am generally blown away by it. And now for Jeff, because I did say when we were reached 10,000, I would do a live stream about Jeff. Oh, thank you very much again for someone supporting me there. Thank you very much. Rex, I want to say I've got to get my screen clean when I get back. So yeah, before we go on to talk about Jeff, please do remember to hit that like button. It helps out the channel massively. And of course, do hit the hit the share button as well. That will help out massively as well. And again, like I say, down below there are links to my Patreon page. So if you would like to help me support the live stream studio that I'm currently in the process of building, that's the place to go. Or whether you just want to buy me a one-off coffee from time to time, that helps so much as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So now for Jeff, because like I say, I did say when we reach 10,000, we would participate in a Jeffathon, in a Jeff live stream, and I was hoping that we wouldn't reach 10,000 before the end of this week, but we did, which was absolutely fantastic. But I was, like I say, in the process of assembling my studio. And if you are on my Patreon, you are a member of my Patreon page and you support me on there, you will see that we have been building, in the process of getting and assembling some stuff to help build that studio. So hopefully, fingers crossed, because it is hopefully, because I have been impacted by Brexit. I have personally been impacted by Brexit. The stuff that I ordered, some of it's arrived. The other thing at the moment hasn't. Partly because of Brexit, because it was coming from Europe. And they essentially announced and told me when I ordered it that it would take about 3 months to get here. It was going to take until July to get here. Luckily now that's been revised because it is coming from Europe. Hopefully, fingers crossed, should be here within the week. So when that happens, we will set up a test live stream for this to happen. And like I say, hopefully that will be, we'll be able to do our Jeff live stream, and I will announce to the public at large, what's going on, so that you can all know what's going on. So like I say, it is very, very much at the moment, fingers crossed, don't worry. We are going to be getting a Jeff live stream soon. I just have to, like I say, build my little live stream studio that I'm currently in the process of building, and then we'll be able to meet Jeff. And like I say, I have kept to my promise. I have kept to my promise 100%. I have not watched any of Jeff's videos, so we will be going into it fresh. I know, little fall behind me. Oh, look at him. But yeah, like I say, thank you so much again. Thank you so much. Like I say, this has only been possible because of all the support that people have shown over these past couple of months. Like I say, we were able to get new cameras, new equipment, all sorts of new stuff to be able to essentially get to this level. And once again, like I say, when we get this live stream studio stuff up and going, we'll be able to take it again to the next level. And like I say, thank you to everyone once again who's supported me. I cannot thank you enough. And people are already talking about it at the moment. People are already talking about it at the moment about Jeff. So I'm very, very worried, very worried about the videos that we're going to end up watching. Needless to say, I think I'm going to suffer and suffer a lot. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, going to be fun either way. So, there we go. Remember to buy a padded helmet. You'll be banging your head. Yeah. Well, you know what I might actually do when we do that live stream? I might actually wear my bowler hat. Oh, someone's asking, is Jeff Bot up for it? Has your team of interns reached out to him? No. This is one of the things I've talked about, I think, before. I don't think it's worth my time talking to a Brexiteer. And I think when we do the Jeff stream, I will show to you why it's not worth my time actually physically talking to a guy like Jeff. I really don't think it is. Put it this way, if Jeff reached out to me and wanted a chat, and generally wanted a chat, I'd go, okay, I'd have it. But I'm not interested in reaching out to him because I don't think it's worth my time. So it's entirely in Jeff's court if he wants to reach out to me. And like I say, we'll have that chat if he wants to have it. But I'm not interested in having one in starting a conversation with Jeff. Oh, hang on, someone said, thank you, Simon. Hi, Bowler Hatman. Have you noticed that the French fishermen are proactive when protesting, but British fishermen are passive? Yeah, that tends to be the case of all is most of the, I think that tends to be most of generally how the British fishermen are about this. But like I say, it's as I said at the beginning, you know, look what happened this week in the whole football scenario. The entire British public rose up as one to say, no, we do not want to leave established European institutions. And even Boris Johnson got up and said the exact same thing, and even added to that by saying that we should not be leaving these established European institutions on promises of, well, things that don't yet exist. Oh, morning. No, I didn't realise they dug a pit out.
Yeah, they dug it out. It's all flooded down there.
Did they? Oh.
Yeah. Every time they put new stuff in, they come and shift it. Somebody's doing it. I don't know.
Oh, well, it's yeah, makes sense. You all right? Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. Got a little fluffy boy. There you go. But yeah, the you know, it just goes to show you that sometimes the British public can be turned on. Just depends. Pitting Barnes. I'll show you what he was talking about in a minute. So as you can see, we're on the canal here. This is a local issue. Love it, local issue. So this, as you can see, is brimming with water. And like I say, whenever we have big floods, it does actually flow over into the field down there that we've walked past. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see it. So there you go. I'll hatch it. Hang on. Be much easier if I just turn the camera around. There we go. Better. Yes, there we go. Yes, that's much better. So as you can see, this is the lake, or what used to be the old canal. As you can see, it's quite full at the moment. But whenever we get some serious rain or flood, this does end up flooding, and of course ends up doing this. And it floods down into the field there. Now, what unfortunately has been happening is that we've had probably teenagers have been digging out, as you can see this part here. You can see that they've dug out this part, and as you can see, it's all flooded down into there, and that is an incredibly stupid idea for them to do. But yeah, that's what that guy was talking about there. But yeah, nevertheless, local issues. Yeah, the dog was the dog is pretty nice. Like I say, he's got two very nice little I think spaniels. Are they spaniels? I'm not very up on dog breeds, but nevertheless, they're really nice dogs. I've got to remember to wash my hands when I get back in because they've licked all over my hands. So, what about Brexit this week? Well, what about Brexit this week? Well, this week's Brexit news comes courtesy, as I'm sure you may have seen my videos on this, comes courtesy of Liz Truss, because it turns out that Britain's new trade policy is now just to essentially go and directly insult the not only Australia but New Zealand as well. Obviously, what Liz Truss said got widely circulated this week, of her comments about the Australian trade minister, her essential Australian counterpart. And again, I found it quite funny that the comments from her side were, he needs to come up to her level. Oh yes, New Zealand as well. We'll get to that in a bit. We'll cover Australia. Then we'll go on to what New Zealand said, because that's quite funny. Like I say, I did a video on Friday about it. You know, so first of all, we had those bizarre comments, and they really, really were bizarre comments in all ways. First of all, Liz Truss is far, far more unexperienced than the Australian guy. The Australian guy has been involved in international trade for well over like 15 years. He's been well experienced in his oh, is this guy going to come on up? Oh, God. So he's been well experienced, well over for about 15 years now. So he's got experience in this case. But the comments from Liz Truss's team were that he was, quote, not on their level. Oh, morning.
Morning. Sorry,
Oh, it's all right. But yeah, the comments were that he was not on their level, that he was responsible for the talks being so slow, and that they were going to put him in the uncomfortable chair. Which, first of all, make our side look completely loonies, make us look completely stupid and silly, and it's just beyond bizarre. Especially when the Brexiteers were all about, the trade with Australia and New Zealand is somehow going to replace our lost trade from the EU. When, even when we went over the Sydney Morning Herald, they even said that these trade deals would not increase their GDP much, and not even increase our GDP much. No. So that's what happened in Australia, and it's again kind of really bizarre, really kind of bizarre. So I also said about New Zealand as well, because New Zealand are also annoyed at us. So why are New Zealand annoyed at us? Well, turns out, much to people's shock horror, people read our newspapers. I know, shocking, right? But they were New Zealand trade team had basically said that the UK were employing dirty tactics to essentially try and force the New Zealanders to try and accept their garbage deal. And I think those comments are even more damning about these trade deals. The fact that New Zealand, a country that was championed by the Brexiteers as some miraculous new port that we would be able to set sail into and dock at, has basically turned around and just said, yeah, the UK is offering us this garbage deal, and yet they're now trying to pressure us into signing it. So what has gone on, and why is it important that they've been reading the Sun newspaper? Because the Sun newspaper has basically been doing articles that there is imminently about to be a deal signed with New Zealand. And the New Zealand team have basically turned around and gone, no, it's nowhere close to being imminent or even close to being done. That's the next thing. So, as always, it's just bizarre beyond words that this is how our new international trade team and global Britain is starting to essentially not only to insult our new trade partners, but also to lie to our public, to lie to the British public about the apparent closeness of trade deals we are meant to be signing. And the New Zealand trade team turned around and said the reason why they are doing this is because they are trying to pressure New Zealand into trying to do a deal before Australia. And that's partly because of, whoever gets their deal in first essentially will get a bigger access to the market and be able to get a bigger market share. And the example they cited was with South Korea, where Australia got their trade deal in a year before New Zealand did. And essentially, the Australian share of the beef market there, they were able to have like a year's free trade almost without New Zealand being there. And because of that, they were able to get a bigger market share in that area. But I have to say, that's with New Zealand. That is with New Zealand. Remember, if you're transporting beef, you've got to transport it halfway around the world. Literally. You've got to transport it to the other side of the planet. And you've got to send it probably in cold storage. So that's going to cost a lot of money. So this is going to result in two things. Either A, you're going to see small quantities of New Zealand beef, lamb, meat from Australia as well, imported in small quantities, but it be sold at a higher price because of essentially the amount of travel and time that it has to get here to be sold to market, essentially. Or, which I'm sure British farmers are going to love, New Zealand and Australia are going to essentially flood the market with mass tons of really cheap beef, lamb, you name it. And I'm sure the British farmers are going to love the fact that they are going to get swamped with lots of cheap produce. I'm sure British farmers are going to love that. And probably at a price that they can't compete at. And again, you're going to get the farmers up in arms about this, because this is what Australia and New Zealand are angling for. This is what hasn't actually been reported. If you look at their trade magazines, especially the what's it called now? What's the farmer magazine in Australia called now? Something. I think it might be the Australian Farmers Week. I can't remember now. But they were saying how what they wanted was almost zero tariff access so that they could flood the UK market with cheap beef to essentially drown out their own, the homegrown market. And so much for the Buy British campaign, because this is what it would result in. This is what these trade deals almost come down to. And this is why being in the EU was so good, because the EU understood that home industries needed to be protected because those would provide jobs. The second you instigate trade doesn't automatically mean that it's going to be good for the country, because there are different types of trade that you can engage in. And it doesn't necessarily mean that trade is going to be good for the local industries, because we've seen recently, because of Brexit, a lot of these companies, a lot of the small to medium-sized companies who were able to trade very freely into the European market, because we were in the customs union, single market customs union, they were just able to treat it as their home market, and they were able to grow because of that. But because of Brexit, they're now unable to do that. And as a result, it's going to be those firms that suffer. And that was always going to be the case. We always said it would be the small and medium firm companies who, by the way, make up the most employers in the UK. Most people work for either a small or medium-sized firm. Even though large firms do employ a lot of people, it tends to be the small to medium-sized companies that do also employ a lot of people when it comes to localities and regions as well. And those are the ones that are suffering. So it's going to be I've said before, Brexit is not going to be good. And unfortunately, it's just going to be a rolling, it's just a snowball that you start that just rolls down a hill. It'll just become an avalanche. And like I say, we've always said, when you take out all the politics of Brexit, leave, remain, whatever, when you boil it down to the simple economics of it all, none of this makes any sense. Makes any sense whatsoever. So we're in a very, very bizarre situation about this. So, like I say, and now we've been, annoying New Zealand and Australia. And all it's going to take, by the way, is New Zealand and Australia, and I hope this does happen, this would be quite funny, is New Zealand and Australia going, oh yes, I understand you're really annoyed with the UK at the moment, so are we. Do you want to team up and take them both down together? Because that's what will happen. That's what will happen. Australia and New Zealand will just do a tag team on us and just go, unless you accept this deal, we're not going to accept yours. And unfortunately, we are in a position where our government is desperate to do any deal in any which way it possibly can. It's desperate to do deals. And even the Australian side noticed that they are desperate to do these deals to justify Brexit at any cost. And as I've said before, the deal for Japan, which was much celebrated by the Brexiteers, when you look at it, is nowhere near as good as the deal we had when we were in the EU. So, yeah, it's just sheer madness. Just sheer madness. But we're just going to have to wait and see what the state of play is. But I can tell you, as always, to quote that economist we quoted at the time, the best worst case scenario for Brexit is less exports, less investment, less jobs, smaller economy. That is the best worst case scenario for Brexit. Where are all you guys going now? You're all following me. So, hang on. Oop. Turn the camera around for you. Come on, turn around. There you go. So if you can see there, you've got another foal, very interesting foal, looks a bit like a Dalmatian behind the brown horse at the moment. There he is. There you go. So now we're coming up to the end of our walk, as we always are. As always, it looks like we're being followed. There we go. So, as always, thank you to everyone for thank you for everyone for supporting me, for the get to 10,000. Our next target, of course, is 100,000. That's the true target now. And of course, thank you to all your support. I will let you know about the Jeffathon, or whatever we end up calling it, as soon as we learn about it. But yes, thank you everyone for joining us today. Please do remember to hit that like button on your way out. Of course, I think we're still being followed by some ponies. So yeah, please do remember to hit that like button on your way out. Please do remember to hit the share button as well. That does help out massively. And if you want to support out the channel in another way, like I say, help me build my streaming studio that I'm building. Like I say, there's my Patreon down below as well, and there's my one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee as well. And like I say, thank you to everyone so far who's supporting me. Like I say, it's because of you we've been able to up our game as well, get new equipment, buy new cameras, get new stuff to help with doing all this, which has been absolutely fantastic. So as always, have an absolute fantastic weekend. And as always, if you can't be safe, be sensible. I'm probably going to play, I don't know what I'm going to play this weekend. Maybe some Spyro. Maybe some Crusader Kings 3. In fact, probably some Crusader Kings 3. Because I really want to try for the achievement where you get the Norse into India. So I think that'll be quite fun. That'll be quite a fun achievement to try and do. So, as always, have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Like I say, do watch out for more videos we've got coming out this week. Like I say, it's more than possible that there will be another Tory sleaze scandal coming out soon. So, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for joining me this morning on a fantastic good morning walk. And we'll see you next Saturday for another good morning walk.